Hi YouTube, my name is Garrett and I'm not a financial expert. I haven't been trained in any ways. I'm just trying to help people try to understand blockchain and the technologies and try to envision the future of how these technologies would be used. I've had a friend and some other people that have started getting into cryptocurrencies and start to look at these, and they ask, well, do you not have a YouTube channel? Do you not have something I can watch? So I'm finding myself explaining this over and over again, and then when they start to hear this stuff, they get really excited, they get really interested. So I'm going to try to help give some insight to this. I'm not a programmer. I just have a few cryptocurrencies that I know how to upload a wallet and some other different things, how to generate some of those things, and I mine a little bit of Ethereum. So that being said, let me try to help you with this. This is somebody that may be a little bit older or new to this type of technology. So let me help you see some of this stuff. Very first thing, what is Bitcoin? Well, again, this definition, you can find it or anything. It's just basically it's an electronic source or store of value that is a public ledger that as a block is being generated, it goes on into the future. So historical data, it can't be changed or altered. It goes on every single time. So all these transactions are dealt in one block. They're done then, and after they're finished, they move on. So they're also reward and generate more Bitcoin every time a block hits. And again, that goes less and less, so it has a deflationary value, and it's not inflationary. So that's a little bit different that we have to think about. So that's some of the things I'm going to dive into on how to think about what these things are, the little bit of different nuances that we have to learn about versus the currency that we hold in our pockets today. So one of the things that it's going to be a household word, I believe, within 5 to 10 years for sure. It's moving so fast and so rapidly, especially since this year over the last 2 years, so to say, when a lot of these blockchain technologies have now been able to run smart contracts. A lot of this is kind of above your head, I know. So if you're joining me on this video, hopefully it is above your head because this is very basic stuff. So let's dive into some basics. So let's envision the future. Okay, in the future, imagine a world. It's been tough to imagine a world without the US dollar. But I can see the US dollar still being around. I don't think it's going anywhere. They'll do certain laws, probably things that will require you to trade in the dollar, or if you're going to buy things for certain brick and mortar stores, or maybe even online transactions, they'll have to be done or transferred into the dollar before the purchase can be made. I can see regulations and laws being set up like that, but I do not see them gauging or regulating the market outside of some maybe a little bit of taxation, not high taxation. Again, this is very infant. I see them wanting to encourage it. This would be a greater store of wealth for our nation. This would be something that would be really good, adaptable technology to all of our business and all of our transactions, and to give more of a sense of transparency within our business while retaining our privacy. And that's almost kind of mind-blowing to think that you can be private and transparent. So let's dive into that. So basically, there's been some challenges. One of the first things that were challenged, let's talk about in the sense of the American history. One of the things that were set up, was a barter system. So money was very difficult to get in the beginnings of our colonies and American history. Money was hard to get a hold of, and so you had to barter. Some farmers would take some of their extra crops and they'd make whiskey from it, so they'd have something to barter. That was something that would keep a store of value, and they would barter and trade with those things. In our entire nation, had a lot of bartering. So money was a big concern for a lot of people to get that out there. So we had a revolution, we had several other things happen in history, and I'm giving a very, very quick recap, being very, very basic. But again, money was necessary for our nation so that we no longer had to barter or had difficulty getting hold of money, but something that was a store of value that could easily be transferred. So without getting too deep, our money now is no longer tied directly to gold or silver or to certain commodities like our farming market or anything of store of value. It is not directly linked to that. It is what's called fiat or fiat. It's a currency that is not based on anything but trust. A government says, all right, we're putting out this, it's worth $1, and $1 gets you X amount of goods. or, it depends. The market kind of dictates that. But not only the market, but the Federal Reserve dictates how quickly the rate of inflation is. So as they inflate the dollar, it buys less, so more people need more dollars, right, to buy more things. So that helps drive the economy for people to want to get more dollars so they can buy more goods. That's kind of the idea, kind of it being inflationary. But also it being fiat means it's not tied to anything. It's only a promise that it is worth debt. Only until you owe something or owe something to somebody else and it's able to be exchanged for that, it only has value. So when you take away it being fiat and then you also make it limited, much like gold and silver, there's only so much being made, it makes it deflationary. Deflationary can be a good thing. Not all money's perfect for everything. Just like we found out in the global market, our $1 that we have, it's not the best thing to have it in the whole global market with policies being set up and trade agreements and everything else. And then we put our dollar against somebody else's dollar, or our dollar against their trade dollar, or whatever they decide to trade in. It creates fluctuations within the market. So sometimes a dollar may be good at home, and to have a trade dollar would be a better solution. So not all money is good for all things. Not all credit cards and transactions done on credit and debit and direct banking and online is good. Sometimes it's good to have cash for direct payments because it costs the expenses that are associated with it aren't good for all businesses. So not all money in the way it's designed or historically designed is the best for every solution. So if you have something, so here comes in a money that's not being inflationary and not being controlled by a central bank, but it's something akin or similar to a digital currency or a digital transaction, much like a credit card, that is tied to a limit or a limitation. There's only so much gold. It's a scarcity. There's only so much silver. There's only so much production of corn in a year. There's only so much of these different things. So when you have a currency that's tied to so much. So Bitcoin, for example, there's only, I think, 24 million ever going to be mined. That's the top number. So that's as much that can happen. So the more people that get on board or use or utilize it, as long as they keep low transaction fees. So as long as it's cheaper to use this digital currency versus using a credit card transaction versus using the US dollar, it would have a real world store of value because it's not inflationary. You can have it, and as people use it and is adopted, and as our wealth increases, because there's not only so much pie. Not everything is a scarce not everything's scarce. We're going to have more people, more generation of jobs. We're going to have better technologies. So the increase of our wealth and our ability to produce is only going to increase. So our economy increases. So our pie gets bigger. So as this pie gets bigger and more people adopt onto something that's deflationary and only so much there, of course, what's going to happen is you're going to earn more. You're going to make more. The value is going to be worth more. There's Bitcoin, you may hold one Bitcoin or a fraction of a Bitcoin, and that's only going to go up in value as people begin to utilize it more. Right now, I think it's only a 64 billion market cap. And when you think of that, that's still very, very low considering it's already a global utilized currency or store of value. When you're talking about trillions of dollars, billions, of dollars that are all over the world, and the more adoption that this is used, just imagine if it overlapped Visa or MasterCard or anything on the amount of transactions that it's able to do. You're talking about scaling up big time. So right now would be a good time to be getting into it, as long as it continues on the path it is to being able to overtake some of those markets, for it being a better stream or better revenue or better way of doing that anyway. So it's deflationary. So we have to think of it going up in value as we use it and utilize it. Again, there are some limitations to it. We need to be able to have there's been some scalability issues that have been addressed and talked about. As long as they maintain low fees and they maintain the speed of the transaction, we're going to see overcoming. They already have different solutions. Not everybody agrees on how the solution. I mean, if you're a miner, you want to make the most the most money that you can, and with the less amount of power. But if you're doing something where if you just own the Bitcoin, of course you want it to be the best solution for being able to run all your transactions and speed. So I think it's going to be put more into what the market desires, and that's going to be most people utilizing and using Bitcoin. And that's kind of why it's the golden standard. It's been around for a long time. It's kind of has a name brand, so to say. It's recognizable. There are several other cryptocurrencies. We'll talk about that in the future. Just in this video, I'm just going to try to envision this for a little bit. So you have a store of wealth or store of value over something that's unhackable. It's not controlled. You become the banker. You become the central bank. You become the governing issuer of this denomination and how you're going to use it. So you have a lot of things that are in your court. And so you eliminate the middleman for a lot of these things, and you can do direct transactions. You can do direct purchases. You can buy something all the way across the globe in a matter of minutes. So that's where the store value of something like Bitcoin has as a currency. In the next video I'm going to be talking more about the idea of smart contracts and tokens. So where the technology, this initial blockchain technology, is now launching into the future. Over the last 2 years, this is really skyrocketed and taken over. Instead of it just being a currency, it is able to do a multitude of things with eliminating middlemen all the way down. Without having a need for a currency, you'll be able to direct exchange or direct buy a store of value of different products. And we'll talk about that in the next video.